All right, everyone. We're waiting for some people to show up. Just to make sure everybody's here before we kind of jump into this thing. But thank you all for being here. And here we go. I knew it. There's some other people showing up. Thank you all for spending your Saturday morning here with us. Oh, here we go. Slowly trickling in, adding a few more people.
Yeah, good to see some face on a
Yeah.
Saturday.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining. We haven't started yet, if you're wondering. We're just waiting for a few more people to show up. Here you go. There's somebody else. All right. Oh, there's another one. Here they come. Here's one more. Okay.
I can't mute myself.
I can mute you actually if you want.
Okay, because I'm making coffee at the moment. I need it.
All right. Yeah, I'll mute you. All right.
Familiar faces. Hi, Will.
Yes. Will was in our previous CREATAS
Hello,
class.
hello.
Hi there. And Debbie, good to see you. Yeah. Very cool. Amanda, good to see you too. Hey. All right. This is good. All right. Well, I think this is good enough. We have enough of a quorum. I guess we can start. We're already recording, and we'll go on and start the presentation. If anyone else joins after we get started, I'll add them to the call. So, Amber, if you want to go in and kick us off.
Yeah, everybody, thanks so much for joining us today. This is going to be really great. This is one of the very first webinars for Choir Academy, and my name is Amber Picota. I am the director of Choir Academy, and I'm really excited about the opportunity to work with Matt and Keith. I love what we're doing here, and I think you guys are going to love it so much as well. There's so much awesome stuff that we're going to unpack here today, so we're going to just kind of jump right on in. Today, you're tuning in for a live webinar with Angie Von Slaughter and Keith Giles. And she currently resides in Denver, Colorado.
Actually, it's Fort Collins. I'm sorry. That's my
Oh, Fort
mistake.
Collins. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's
I'm sorry, my notes.
Close enough, guys. Close enough.
okay.
You know, in the general vicinity. My
Okay.
bad.
In that area.
Ish. I'll just add ish on the end. But she lives there with her wife and fur babies. She loves creating, and that includes all kinds of stuff like design, art, music, podcasts, and more. She's an avid tea drinker, book reader, and this I agree wholeheartedly on, believes that fall is the best season ever created. Naturally, it is. My birthday is in fall, and so many other wonderful things. Okay. So she's joining us here today, and she's going to be sharing some really awesome stuff. Also, Keith Giles, he is a best-selling author, and also apparently formerly alternative rock band.
Yeah, in my
Pretty cool.
previous
I
life.
mean, that's a little bit of a flex. I'm just saying.
We weren't that popular or anything.
Oh, come on. He probably has like fans somewhere, like wearing t-shirts, and he just like won't tell us this.
Yeah, my mom.
Your mom. If you have a t-shirt, I'll wear it too and be another
Yeah.
fan, okay?
Okay.
But his first collection of poetry and song lyrics were called Winter Moon and Coffee Stain, was released from Choir Publishing in August of this year. He lives in El Paso, Texas with his wife Wendy, and he blogs regularly at keithgiles.com.
There you go. Yeah, thank you.
So welcome everybody, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you all for being here. I'm still adding people to the call, so this is really great, and we're excited to do this. Thank you all for doing this. Angie and I did a previous course called CREATAS a few months ago, and it was so much fun. And all we did really in that course was go through Rick Rubin's book called The Creative Act, which if you have not read, I highly recommend it. I got a copy. Here's my copy right here. Notice, notice all the little pages that I've marked here. There's a lot here. It's a fantastic book. So that was a lot of fun doing that together. And we thought, you know what, let's do something like that again. So we'll be talking to you about that a little bit later, but this webinar is going to kind of lead us into that. I'm going to share something really quick, and then Angie's going to share some things as well. So let me get this going. Okay, gotta love technology. And there we go. Hopefully you can all see that. You see that? Yes, thumbs up. Good. Okay. So, one of the things we want to talk about in this webinar is different ways that we can create art that changes the world and changes us. And so, I just briefly want to go through, and this is going to be pretty quick, but just talking about how art changes the world. The interesting thing about art is that it changes the world, and in fact, it already has changed the world. For example, Dorothea Lange's, this is a very famous photograph, helped bring awareness to those suffering during the Depression and the Dust Bowl. This photograph helped to end the war in Vietnam by raising awareness for Americans back home of what was going on there. One of my favorite quotes of all time, it's in my wallet on a piece of paper that's been in my wallet since I think high school. And I remember reading this quote from Lord Byron, and he said, who's a famous poet, and he says, "A small drop of ink upon the page can make thousands, perhaps millions, think." So art already impacts our world and changes our world, and it changes us. So actually, I want to stop right here and ask to kind of like, if people want to, you can do it in the chat if you want. How has art changed you? Just take a second and think about that. Is there a song? Is there a book? Is there a poem? Is there a film? Is there a work of art, a painting? Is there something that you would say, this work of art has touched me and changed my life in a significant way? So if you can think of something like that, go in and share that in the chat. Now, you may not be able to see the chat. I might have to stop sharing so you can see what's going on in the chat here. Anybody have any examples? No, here we go. Terrestrial Traveler says, OMG, my side of the mountain, I went on to try to live it. Wow. That's good. There you go, Sarah. Thank you. I say the same thing. Slaughterhouse-5 had a big impact on me, helped solidify my pacifist stance. Yeah, I love that. Cool. Anyone else? Shayna? The Raft of Medusa is an incredible painting that really made me look at traditional art in a different way. Yeah. And Judy says, art, especially live music performances, allow me to tap into my emotions. Oh, exactly. Yeah, I can think of concerts I've been to that were just transcendent experiences. Everything from like U2 to like jazz concerts and stuff, just amazing. Yeah. Yeah, so there you go. That's basically the point I wanted to make, is that art already touches us and changes the world. Katel says the song Raise a Little Hell, Put a Fire Under Me. Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, think about how art can motivate you, right? In many ways. I think yeah, like I think about like Rage Against the Machine, like holy cow. That puts a fire under me. That's pretty powerful. Good. Thank you all. So that's good. I just wanted to share some examples of that. Hold on, I got another one here. Amber, yeah, I was deeply impacted by The Shack. And another book was The Four Winds. Yeah, very cool. That's good. All right, so let me get back here to what I was doing here, and then I'm almost done. So yeah, art does change us, right? And so now we want to ask, like, how can we change the world with the art that we create, the things that we create? So these are some quick 6 little ways I think that we can do this. Oh, hold on, I skipped ahead there. One is focus on small changes, right? Don't focus on the whole world. So start small and kind of keep your expectations realistic. Give more than you take. I think this is such an important thing. I've noticed in the things that I do, if my intention as I'm creating that art is success, if my intention in creating that art is I want this to be big, I want people to love it, I want, you know what I mean? It's like more of a selfish thing. Hold on. Why is it jumping ahead? If it's a selfish motive, what I create usually falls pretty flat. But if I'm creating something from a desire of like, hey, I really want this to help people, I really want this to heal people, I want what I'm creating to be a gift to the world and the people around me. Even especially if I have a specific person or persons in mind that I want to make their lives better by what I'm creating, that's when what I create makes the most difference. Of course, use technology. Nowadays is kind of a no-brainer, but keep in mind all the different things we have available to us to kind of get our art out there. Of course, social media, video, YouTube, Etsy, if you're creating things that you're going to share with the world, live streaming, podcasting, all those kinds of ways that we can share what we create with people around us. Of course, collaborating with others is really important. I know from my time being in a band, oh my gosh, I miss it so much. That feeling of creating a music together, and Angie can talk about this too. Like all I did was write lyrics and sing, right? But that's not a song. And that's not something anyone can hear, right? So writing the music, uh, you know, polishing that song, being on a stage and performing that song, seeing the audience's reaction and talking to people afterwards, like that takes, all of us, everyone in the band and the audience. So that collaboration is really important. It can really help magnify what you're doing. And of course, be patient. Again, as things take time, you shouldn't expect it to happen overnight. No one can predict that kind of viral stuff, or even no one can make that viral stuff happen. Uh, I've had it happen to me once, totally by accident. And if I knew how to do it, I would do it again, but I don't. So you can't make it happen. And finally, be yourself. I think that's super important. Whatever you do has to be authentic. It has to be real. Rick Rubin talks about this a lot in his book. Ultimately, you're the audience, right? You have to be honest and tell the truth and be transparent. And the more vulnerable and transparent you are in creating your art, the more power it's going to have and the more people it's going to resonate with. And I'm going to end actually, someone mentioned Slaughterhouse-5, and then I want to, it's so funny you said that because I last minute, I remembered this quote and I added it. This is advice Kurt Vonnegut gave to young people. He said, practice any art, music, singing, dancing, acting, drawing, painting, sculpting, poetry, fiction, essays, reportage, no matter how well or badly, not to get money or fame, but to experience becoming, to find out what's inside you, to make your soul grow. Seriously. I mean, starting right now, do art and do it for the rest of your lives. Draw a funny picture, dance at home after school, sing in the shower, on and on. Make a face in your mashed potatoes. Pretend you're Count Dracula. But be as creative as you can, as often as you can. So I love that. I love Kurt Vonnegut. I do love Slaughterhouse-5. And I love Kurt Vonnegut's advice there. I think that's just really important and necessary. So I'm going to stop sharing there. Thank you. I'm going to add someone else to the call. All right. So there you go. That's what I wanted to share with you guys about art and how it changes us and how it changes our world and some different ways, some pretty simple and practical ways that we can approach that. And then Angie, I know you had some things you wanted to share.
Yeah, sure. Well, first, thank you guys for being on today's call. For some of you, this is first thing in the morning, and I'm glad that you're a part of this. Hopefully, you have a cup of coffee and you're getting cozy, hanging out. If you're here, it's because you're attracted to creativity of some kind. And I want to pivot and talk a little bit about creativity as a more broad idea. Many in this group are artists, but there are some that might be creative but wouldn't call themselves an artist.
Mhm.
That's because creativity is, again, a little bit more broad than we'd like to think of it. And if you're here, maybe it's because you also feel like you have some creative blocks. Maybe you want to expand your creative process. And we want to talk about all of those things. I'm going to attempt to share my slides. You know how social, or not social, you know how Zoom can get sometimes.
Yes.
So let me know if you can see this. We good to go? Thumbs
Yes.
up?
Yes, we see that.
All right. Okay, still good?
Yep.
So what I want to talk about first is that creativity solves problems. Aside from art, so Keith talked a lot about one thing that I will mention as well is that creativity can create change and all kinds of things. But we often think of creativity as art and beauty. And it can be something that is so powerful, so beautiful, but it also is a problem solver. At its core, creativity creates something often out of nothing. So a great example of this is what's called user experience versus design. You'll notice the sidewalk to the right, that is design. So whoever created this pathway created it in a way that you should be walking on that sidewalk. Instead, obviously, you can see there is a path that's created in the grass because that's the path of least resistance. That's the path the user wants to take. This is called a desired path. And I'm going to get a little nerdy here because we have to learn this in the design world. You learn that things not only should look good, aesthetically pleasing, but they should have a function and a purpose. So the design was failing, and the person decided to walk a path. We saw this at Ohio State University. This was a huge problem, and this is a great example in design. This open field here was supposed to be a luscious green lawn, as you can see. It is now well worn from the feet of people that have taken these paths again and again. Where the trees are lined is where the sidewalks were, and you can clearly see that people were creating paths all on their own. And they were creating these paths because that's what worked for them. So creativity had to step in and solve a problem. And Ohio State University said, what if we create oval walkways that actually still enrich and enhance the beauty of our lawn and our structure? But now people can actually take a path that's not in the middle of the mud. Right? So creativity solves a problem.
Mhm.
Today, we have a lot of problems in the world. And that's what I love about creativity is instead of sitting by idle, we can ask ourselves, how can we effectively create change? So creativity inspires change. A lot of the examples Keith showed were really powerful. The Vietnam War, seeing a photograph from that, it inspires emotion. It evokes emotion, which hopefully eventually inspires change. This is a great example of that. This was an art exhibit called Can't Help Myself by Sun Yung and Pen Yu. And this was created, I do believe, in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
I forget the exact year. But this machine was basically designed to work. It was supposed to be self-sufficient. This substance is like an oil-like substance that they dyed red to look like blood. In order to stay alive and keep functioning, this art piece had to keep scooping the oil up and consuming it. So the faster it worked, the faster it could consume the oil, the faster it could basically stay alive. The problem is it was almost virtually impossible, and it eventually kept running out of oil. And it asked the viewers to question the systems we build, whether they're ultimately to serve us or consume us. Is this sustainable? And some people actually found themselves, I'll go back for a minute. You can see the people looking through the window and the blood stain on the wall. Some people found themselves in tears because it in many ways looked like this inanimate object was dying. And it represents so much of what we see in our own lives is what we're doing sustainable. And so it can create change. It can ask the viewer, in what way can I pivot and do something differently? Creativity, more than anything, I think, sparks empathy. It sparks emotion. And it it really gives us many, many ways in how to have empathy. This is a classic example. To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. If you've read it or watched the movie, you get then that this main quote from Atticus Finch says you never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view, until you climb inside of his skin and walk around it. It can create empathy. How many of us have thought of one thing one way and we sit down and we hear someone's story in the form of creativity and it changes our heart and it really creates and sparks empathy? We obviously know this one: creativity enriches life. It beautifies life, it creates meaning. And this is a famous one, The Creation of Adam by Michelangelo, which is in the Sistine Chapel. But we also see it in street art. I love street art. Murals, I think, enrich a city more than we even can acknowledge. That where places might be drab, where places might be lifeless, murals bring life, energy to a city. It can really rejuvenate a city that can feel troubled. We've seen it in certain cities that they're trying to pivot the culture from something that might have been a struggling or dying city into something that has vibrancy. And this is a classic example. Eduardo Cobra is a famous muralist who has done everything from culture pieces to David Bowie to things about anti-war protests. And he's kind of right up there with Shepard Fairey, who has done a lot of murals as well. And again, it not only beautifies it, but it really evokes some sort of emotion, which hopefully does something for the greater good. And this is my thoughts entirely, is whether you feel stuck today, whether you have more ideas than you know what to do with, your creativity is a gift to the world. It really is. That idea that you have that feels harebrained, that feels like a wild, bizarre spark, I believe that's a divine spark. And by sharing your creativity, you become part of a larger story, one that connects, heals, and enriches. And so what stories, projects, creations, ideas are waiting to be born in you? You probably have a ton of them, or again, maybe you're feeling blocked, but at one point you had that fire, that energy. I believe they're waiting to be born, and maybe they just need to be cultivated. So one thing that I want to ask and open the conversation to today, and I'll pivot so that we can chat in the sidebar, is what are roadblocks to your creative expression? So let me go ahead and stop sharing my screen. And let's go ahead and chat amongst each other about what are roadblocks to your creative expression. Because we all have them. I don't know about you. As a creative, I've gone through seasons where everything's coming out of me like a fire hose, just idea, idea, idea. And then there's nothing. And sometimes the nothingness feels like winter that lasts forever. And you're like, am I ever going to get a creative idea again? Am I ever going to produce something again? So we have.
Yeah, I'm going to put your responses in the chat, or if you want, you can unmute yourself and just you can talk to us as well.
And that's, yep, I love that you offered that, Keith.
Yeah.
If you're more of a verbal processor like I am, feel free. You can unmute, jump in. What are some roadblocks you have to your creative expression? Sarah in the chat says time. Yeah, time's a big one. Having to work, chronic illness, which makes me too tired to write when I'm not working.
Yeah.
Sarah, I can resonate with that.
For me, creativity has just been an idea. I've always wanted to draw or whatever, and just this week I finally started opening up a piece of paper and taking colored pencils and drawing. I think I don't want to be judged.
Yeah.
I have never tried art, but I have it in my head that I want to do so badly. But I'm so afraid that people look at, I can't even do it just for me.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I mean, I think there is something about it, like in Rick Rubin's book, he talks about this too. Like there's sort of phases of the process, right? And what you're talking about is this kind of the beautiful essence of it, where it's like you just have this desire to draw. You just want to get a piece of paper and some colored pencils and see what you can do and see what happens, right? And you're the audience, you're the only audience. You're the one being excited and delighted and surprised and you're being pleased, hopefully, by what you're creating. And just the act of doing it is accomplishing something in yourself, in your soul. That's just a beautiful thing, right? Necessary. But then what other people might think about it is something else, right? Like you don't have to show this to anybody, right? Unless you like really love it and then that person you feel like can really appreciate it, well, then you can show it to them. But you don't have to, right? Because so much is happening on that creative side of it. What you're just doing it is doing something so wonderful for you. That's okay to let that be enough, at least in that beginning phase. But I think a lot of people struggle with that. Yeah. Sarah, your hand was up.
Sorry, I just muted myself. Yes, hi. I actually write fiction and I've had a few short stories published in different magazines. But what I'm finding now is that everything is so expensive and I have to pay my rent and my bills. So I take on all this freelance work and then I'm working all day at my computer. And by the time I'm finished with the work, I'm too tired to write.
Yeah.
Or it's so late and I just want to go to bed. And compounding that is that I have a chronic illness. I have rheumatoid arthritis, which cuts into my energy even further than the average person. So the need to because writing can make money, but it's a while before it can. Like unless you're really lucky and you get picked up by a big publisher, fiction is not a big money maker.
Right.
And it's also writing a novel that you could even submit takes a long time and a big commitment. So, I've written short stories and I started a novel, but I haven't gotten to work on it in a while. And I really wish I could. But it's just so hard to make a living and do the things you need to do just to pay your bills.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of us can resonate with that.
I was going to say that as well. I see a lot of heads nodding because when we talk about time, it's true. Life is more expensive. We're working probably more than ever. And time isn't always a luxury that many of us have to be creative. Yeah. And I think that's a good point. It's a very good point. Debbie said direction. I have unfinished manuscripts where I come to a point where I'm not sure where to go and I quit. Oh my gosh, has anyone else been there on a project, and you are at this point, you think it's a great idea, and then all of a sudden there's a roadblock. You're just stuck. I don't know where to go from here. Yeah.
That happened to me
That
last week.
That describes my writing.
Yeah, you're not alone. You're not alone. I think many of us have a lot of fits and starts in this group.
Yeah.
I also don't want to overlook John's quote, whether what I have to say has real world practical value.
Yeah.
Oh, feel that. There's something about creativity that any creative expression, I think because of Western culture, we feel like it has to be productive. It has to have value. I hope, and I don't want to jump ahead, I hope that one thing that we can gain from this group is that creativity has value in and of itself for no other reason other than to be creative. That's it. Full stop.
Yeah.
Makes us better humans, more empathetic, loving, helps our mental health.
Yes.
Yeah. Full stop.
Yeah. We talked about this in the previous class. There's something, I think one of the enemies of creativity is judging. And like I saw this a lot, and Angie also has worked in like creative marketing agencies, advertising agencies, right? So I worked as a copywriter for like 11 years. And we would have these brainstorm sessions, right? So the artist, the art director, and the writer would go into a room, shut the door, and okay, we got this. We got to come up with ideas, right? We need like 5 ideas for this campaign or something. And what I learned was that, I had certain people I would be paired up with sometimes, and I would throw out an idea, and they would say, "That's stupid. Oh, that won't work. That's dumb," and they could just killed it, right? It was okay, full stop, hit the brakes. Like, wait, there's no more ideas because like everything I throw out, I'm afraid to even say it because it's going to get judged. And what I learned with other people is that there was no judging at least in that idea phase. It was just, what do we got? Let's just go. And as long as we were not judging it, it just kept flowing and flowing and flowing and flowing. And I think that can happen to ourselves where we're in that flow of creating this thing that we love to do, we want to do, and we feel compelled to do. But then we start judging it ourselves. Like, is this good? Isn't it? And then that just kind of puts the brakes on the creativity. At least for myself, I've seen that a lot. Yeah. Amber, go ahead.
Yeah, Angie, as you were talking, there's a moment where I even teared up because I never considered something that you mentioned about like what the blocks could be and why. And all of a sudden, I remembered when I was a child, because I have ADHD, and I had ADHD during a time when we weren't really diagnosing very well, and especially not girls. And so, if you were a very hyperactive, weird little girl, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy for you, exactly. And so, but I remember distinctly, like I collected turtle shells from the woods that are like dried out and emptied because they died a long time ago, and I would paint them. And I remember telling my dad, like, so my family is native, we're Chickasaw, and I told my dad, I want you to take me to powwow on in October, and I'm gonna set up a table and I'm gonna sell my turtle shells. And I'm not sure, I can't remember, to me it looked so beautiful and wonderful, but there are just all these moments like that I can remember that was creativity and
Yeah.
art, even though I probably wouldn't have really acknowledged it as much as that then. But there are all these moments where, my ideas and all those things were just squished because I was told, like, you've always got your head in the clouds, you need to get back down here in reality and think about the real world, because you can't sell turtle shells. And I never really thought of that then as like a monumental moment, but looking back, I'm like, yeah. And I can see that now show up where, in like you said about productivity, is thinking like, no, this isn't meaningful, like it doesn't matter, and it's not actually actively solving problems in my life. But that's really huge, because it's like almost like a lie that stemmed way back yonder with my turtle shell that I painted to bring to powwow.
That's great.
Right. Yeah. Beautiful share, Amber. Thank you. That is true that you connected that dot, that lie of, is this productive? Does this have value or place in the world? Maybe that stemmed from the squelching of that turtle shell,
Yeah.
which, for a kid, we don't know why we're doing the things we're doing. We're just following that impulse. And that's also something that is beautiful about creativity, is it really requires a certain essence of us that unlocks the childlike self, that says, I'm not going to overthink it. I'm not going to worry about metrics, opinions, thoughts, failures. I'm not going to ask why. Why am I doing this? What is this for? You just do and feel and express. And sometimes the answers come much, much later, what it's for, why you're doing it.
Yeah.
I love that, though. That's a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that about the turtle shells.
Yeah. Yeah. It also makes me think too about how there's such whatever art form you're in, writing, painting, photography, whatever you're doing, there's such pressure to conform, right? There's just like, well, that's not good enough, or that's not how you do that, and there's, but we can think about people who are, who are, who created art that was so unique. And what we love about it is that it didn't fit the mold, right? It was something completely out of the blue. I mean, like in poetry, E. E. Cummings, right? I mean, he just broke the rules. You're not supposed to type like that. Why is that line over there? Why is that word all by itself? Why is there two line breaks in the middle of a word? Like all that kind of stuff. But it was like he just gave himself permission to break those rules, right? And we see that in music, like Bob Dylan, Jimi Hendrix, like they did things in music at the time that everybody told them was wrong and you can't do that, and they did it anyway, right? And so, there's such pressure to conform, to do it the right way. But I think sometimes that can hold us back too. Like I had this, this past week, I'm trying to write a science fiction novel, my first one, and I'm like on chapter 5, and I realized I was getting bored. And I also realized the reason I was getting bored was I was kind of just writing what I expected and everybody would expect, right? And I realized like, no, I don't want it. I don't want to do that. I want to write something that's in my own voice. And I want this to be chaotic and unexpected. I don't want to know what's going to happen next, right? So I went back and just started to write without any of those conceptions. And it broke my, my block. It was like, oh, wow, suddenly it was something cool and new and exciting was happening because I was giving myself permission to break those rules. So, yeah, a lot of times I think that's part of it too. And just giving yourself permission to say, I'm just going to do this because I want to do it. And it makes me happy. Kay Till has a comment I can read. It's pretty long. I started an art journal in March of this year around the time that I picked up the Creative Act. Oh, good. Okay, so you've read that. Good. I haven't finished the book, Ruben's book yet, but I've almost finished my first art journal. Yes, that's awesome. I do an entry almost every day. Sometimes I'm so pleased with what I've been able to create, and sometimes not so much. But I have a rule: everything stays in the book. I do comment on what I was thinking and inspired by on most of the entries. That's really good. Yeah, for a while, like I just published my first poetry book a few months ago, and before I did that, I made myself like a daily exercise where I would get up early every morning and write a poem, and it just had to be a poem. It didn't have to be the greatest poem ever written, and a lot of times they were crap, but I just did it. Like I'm gonna write a poem every day, and a lot of times, most of them probably were garbage or just not garbage. It's like nothing that I would want to show with anybody. But but the act of doing it every day like that, like you're saying in your art journal, that exercise of just doing it something every day, there were two or three that came out of it that were like, wow, I this was really good, and ended up in my book. So yeah, if you have time to do that kind of thing where you can do something every day, if you have the time to do that, uh, that can be really helpful. And sometimes that frequency can only be once a week, right? Because you really are so busy, like your only time is like Saturday mornings or Sunday afternoons or something. But yeah, that's really important. That's good. Judy says art can also help to heal those tender parts of us that are afraid or feel blocked to create. Yeah, exactly. That's great. Amber says my art form is writing and it is extremely therapeutic and cathartic for me. Yeah. Angie says art and music were my first forms of therapy in my life. Yeah, that's so good. Good stuff. Yeah. Terrestrial Traveler says, me too. Don't make waves, even though everything in me is about making waves. Exactly. Exactly. And John says, I yearn to write free verse poetry, but I end up rhyming. Yeah, sometimes it's hard to break those habits too. Yeah. Some
Yeah,
things.
I notice when I read some of these, or even, the verbal sharing or in the comments, it's a lot of expectations.
Yeah.
What creativity should look like.
Yes.
Staying in the lines, doing it this way. What will people think? Yada, 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 yada. And I hope that we can spark a little bit of, I'm trying not to use all kinds of explicitives right now. But I hope we can burn those down
Yes.
and start over and at least give permission. I think that would be the word, give permission for your creative side to play.
Yeah. That's a big part of it. I do think that. Yeah. Yeah. Amanda, you were going to say something?
I think
Okay, I think I'm on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I love the idea of expectations. I think it's our greatest enemy, actually, just from creativity sparking that youthfulness in us. We crush that with expectations. And I do it religiously. You'll be sitting down with a great idea, then the dog or the child or just life, and so I think for me personally, it's been easiest to let go of what I think others' expectations are for me and just put it out there. And hopefully it connects with the right people, that light source. I look at it as, I see it as a visual, a light. Can you pick up on it? Can you grow with it? So yeah, I agree with expectations being, the catalyst for just not ever working.
Yeah.
So,
That's exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. it's amazing when you start to create art like this, where it seems like so much of it is this internal um, inner struggle, right? I'm constantly, as I'm trying to write this stupid novel, like it's not even the hardest thing isn't writing the novel. The hardest thing is all the inner talk that I'm doing in my head about, can I do this? Should I do this? Am I capable of doing this? You know, all that kind of stuff. It's like I have to silence all of that first so that I can do that. So I can just sit down and do what I want to do. Um, but it's real. It's definitely real.
Mhm.
Yeah. Amber says to John, let yourself rhyme and see where that leads you. Yeah, that's right. I like that. Good stuff. Any other thoughts about creativity? Any things that are blocking you or hold you back that we haven't talked about or that you just want to share with us?
Mhm. Judy just shared, do I have permission? Used to come up for me a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is good. I will I think this is maybe a good place to switch to talk about why we're doing this and why we invited you all here to talk have these kind of conversations. So I'm going to share my screen again. So as I mentioned, Angie and I did a course a few months ago called CREATAS, and that course was so great. I mean, not that we did something great, but I mean, it was great because we had amazing people in the group who
Mhm.
shared and talked, and we really, like we said, we went through Rick Rubin's book together. And there's so many great things that come up as reading that book. It's if you haven't read it, highly recommend it
Mhm.
because it's not just a book about creativity. I mean, to me, it's like it's a book about spirituality. It's a book about humanity. It's a book about psychology. It's a book about life. It touches on so many things other than just specifically art or creativity. But that was such a wonderful experience. Um, and so I guess about a month ago or so, um, I reached out to Angie and I said, hey, wouldn't it be cool, or would you be interested if we did another round of this? So if we did another Create Us class, that was a little bit different. So that first class was really, we did a lot of talking about creativity, and it was awesome. And we have a little private Facebook group where a lot of those conversations continued. And, but in this class, what we wanted to do was, have a Zoom call like so it's going to be every Wednesday night, and have a Zoom call where we focus not on just talking about creativity, but we actually do stuff. So it's really, we're calling it a sandbox, right? This is like your creative sandbox. And we think getting together with other people on a weekly basis, we're only going to run it for, there'll be 8 sessions. And at every time we get together, Angie and I are going to throw out some ideas, prompts, sort of assignments, things to kind of spark your creativity, little exercises you can do just to see where it goes, to see where it takes you, right? And then what we're going to do on those calls is talk about it, like what worked for you, and if you feel comfortable, maybe do some show and tell, share what you've created with the group, and that kind of thing. So that's our vision for the course we want to start. We're going to start it in January. Um, so let me see if I can get the details to come up here. Um, yeah, so January the 8th, we start at 6 p.m. Pacific time. So I think that's 9, yeah, Eastern time. And it'll run for about an hour every Wednesday night. So it'll be a live Zoom conversation. And yeah, we're going to just share ideas, and Angie and I are going to have some suggestions for you to like, hey, this coming week, whatever it is your creativity involves, to do something a little different, to try something that we think is going to help you um, kind of spark your creativity, right? Kind of get you to do some things out there. And Amber, if you want, you can kind of talk about this part of it because we are offering something special for everybody on the call.
This is going to be really great because we have an opportunity for everybody who is actually here watching live and who registered for the webinar. That is pretty great. And because we have a coupon code, the code is CREATE, just all caps lock, for 30% off. So that's really great. And as being added to that Facebook group. And there's just so many elements about this course that is going to just spark so much creativity and invite you to think and approach things from ways maybe you didn't consider before. I think it's going to be a great opportunity to just sort of like expand and think outside the box. But yeah, that code is CREATE. I'm putting some stuff in the chat right now for you guys, and just check that out. There's first of all, a link for those of you who are just kind of like, okay, let me get some more information. That link will take you to the page where you could register. There's more information that you might answer any questions you have. And also there's that 30% off code for anybody who has signed up for this live webinar. If you registered, you can use that and get that 30% off code.
There you go. Yeah, and then any questions about the class and how it's going to work? So Sarah has her hand up.
Yes, hi. Am I going to be able to participate in this doing writing?
Yes.
Because I write through dictation, but I can't do a lot of art or crafts with my hands because of my disability. So if I join, I can do writing and poetry and that type of thing.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yes, let it be known, whatever your art form or creativity is, even if it's something wildly out of the box as far as creativity goes, like you're a mathematician, I don't care. I really don't care what it is. I think we all collectively are saying, what is the thing that sparks your soul? What's the thing that you really want to bring into this world? And what's your form of play? All of those things, what emotes you, what makes you come alive, whatever that expression is. If it's knitting, it's knitting. If it's painting, if it's writing, if it's video and you do, film, yes. So absolutely. And if you haven't had a chance to click the link, we're not asking for like a wild, like this is a very affordable thing for 8 weeks. We're not asking for a high dollar amount. And I think it literally, with the coupon code, I think it comes to like $6.25 a class, pretty much.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cheap.
Yeah.
But really it's, I don't want to jump in and take over, Keith, but really more than anything, it's a sandbox, a place to, if you're feeling stuck, if you want to be inspired, maybe you aren't stuck, but you feel like you're just wanting to share that vision with other people. I think the world is heavy and hard, and creativity has such a beautiful gift to inspire, enlighten people, to give them hope. And so it's my desire that everyone would really lock into that form of expression, whatever it is for them. I think when you see times of war, times of conflict, times of oppression, art becomes one of the things that shines and becomes like a phoenix from the ashes, because it's the thing that's like the unnamed thing. It's the language we all speak, but we don't know how to say. And it's what we're feeling, and it just comes out in whatever we're expressing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Thank you, Angie. Yeah, that's right. And, we've talked a lot here on this call about permission, right? And so that's kind of part of our vision for this course, is that to be in a community of other creative people who are giving you permission, right? And helping you give yourself permission to do those things, right? So this is our little sandbox. We're just going to create some things. We're going to try to, again, just give you guys some ideas and things that are inspiring, and exercises like, hey, let's do this, let's try that. Kind of break your habits on some things. Try some things maybe you haven't tried before in what you're doing, and a chance to get some feedback from that, as well as encouragement from other people. I talked earlier about collaboration, and so we might could do some collaboration in this as well. So who knows what's going to come out of it? We're excited about it. I think I speak for Angie in this too. Like, I want to be in this class. Like, I'm doing this because I need a class like this. Okay. So it's not just like, I want to teach you something. Like, no, I want to experience this for myself with a bunch of other creative people, and to be able to have these conversations and encourage each other in whatever you're creating. So that's a big reason of why I'm doing it. And I'm looking forward to it. And if you want to join us for this, we're trying to make it as affordable as possible. And I'll say also, like, so we'll do these live. So if you're thinking, well, I can't always make those Zoom calls, I think the interaction is a big part of it. So we would really prefer that you would be there live for the calls. But if you can't be there for some of the calls, we can record them, post them in the course as well. So you can go back and watch replays later. But I would highly encourage you to, if you're going to take the course, to try to actually attend as much as you possibly can.
Yeah, the last course we did, it was more of a book discussion,
Yeah.
and a lot of us, but we call it a book discussion. It ended up being deep philosophical moments and lots of soul searching. You could watch the replay and still get a lot from it. So if you did miss a week, it was okay. But I do agree, there was something magical that happened about being present with everybody, having that back and forth. And because sometimes somebody might have a thought or a solution or an idea to what you're going through, that you can only find when you're present in the group together. Yeah, Sarah, you have a question?
Yes, I just signed up, but I was wondering, do we need to read the book for the class?
No.
No.
I think it's extracurricular, like a extracurricular reading.
Extra credit.
Suggested reading. No, it's just deeply inspiring. It really is, but no, absolutely not. Where I think Keith and I are getting ideas and concepts. So last time we read the book, talked about the book, how that applied to our own life. This time we're taking principles from the book and actually applying it in real time, which can be done with or without the book.
Right.
Yeah.
Can you say the title of it again?
Yeah.
The book.
I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it's The Creative Act by Rick Rubin, Rubin. Yeah. Will.
Yeah, I was a little distracted earlier with
I saw that.
the 6-month-old baby there. But I just love, I've been listening in, and it's even at this point in the college, like, none of us need a class, but all of us need a class.
Yeah.
Like, again, because all the stuff, the roadblocks of creativity, it's all fear, it's all self-talk, it's all these things. I just, like, every time I'm talking about creativity, people are like, oh, I'm not an artist, or, oh, I can only draw a stick figure. Oh, and I'm like, like, just shut up with that talk, that negative. Like we are so quick to shoot ourselves down because it happened when we were 6 or 8 or whatever, where people don't value creativity because it doesn't make money, like all these negative things. It's like, it's like, again, none of us need a class, but we all need a class because it's saying, I want to pursue my own creativity. It's choosing it, it's creating, like, this is the thing I talk about, and I'm trying to do in my life, where it's like, I'm trying to create space for creativity.
Yeah.
Just creating space to create with or without an outcome, and again, it's hard with all the things of money, family, time, all those things. We can easily excuse them away, but it's like, if I'm kind to myself, I'm creating space for creativity. Because I know I'm better when I'm creating. So anyway, just a few thoughts for you guys. Because again, I love creating that space. Whether, just having it on the calendar. It's like, okay, yes, creativity is something I value. So I need to create space for that. So anyway,
Thanks, Will. That's very encouraging. Thank you. I think that's right. Yeah, we're all busy. I've got all kinds of reasons not to create.
Life is full. Yep.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It is, but I love that, Will, what you're mentioning is this interplay between self-care and creativity. That we think it's a privilege to be creative. And I actually think we are creative every single day, no matter what that looks like. It might not look like pen and ink or songwriting. It might look like the decision I made, the outfit I picked up, the conversation I had. There's little moments of creativity, but if we don't create that margin, and this is something I believe, if we don't have that margin to be creative, we also don't have margin to thrive. If we don't have margin to have any kind of creativity, what does that say about our own well-being, physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally? It absolutely. So I thank you for saying that, Will. I think it becomes something that once you create space for it, it can be like a spiritual practice for you.
Yeah.
This is part of my care for myself. And even if it's 10 minutes, that's 10 minutes better than what I had before.
Beautiful. That's exactly right.
You know, Keith, earlier you mentioned about how at one point you were on a team and maybe you had ideas and sometimes they would be like, it's not going to work. And, you know, even I shared about how like there was this time where I felt like my idea was squished and I kind of like, I think I probably carried that with me for a really long time.
Yeah.
And it just made me think about how important it is to find people who will nurture that in us and to find people who will support that and be like, yeah, I love that. It's beautiful. Like, even if it's flawed, there's probably something really great in that idea somewhere. And people who are, well, I call them dream killers, but like, you know, people who do that, they will squish it out of you for good eventually. It just stamps it out of you because we can only handle so much of that rejection. So I think that this course would be a really great sort of way to find that support. And like, I really do believe that when we get around people who, it doesn't have to be like-minded in the sense that we do the same art form, but like-minded in the sense that we sort of like nurture the creativity in others. I think it definitely stirs it up within us. And there's something deep within us that knows like this is safe. This is safe to create. And this is safe to have ideas, you know, and like subconsciously, I do believe that we sort of hold back and we push that down when we think that other people will just down it and put it down. So I definitely think that this course would be a really great opportunity to just give yourself space to be around other people who support and will stir that up within you. And I think really truly the people who register and attend are going to see themselves creating and blooming and inspired in ways that, you know, will extend to even other parts of their life as well, for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's our hope anyway. Yeah. I love that. Just, it is then a therapeutic, right? I think we need to create art. Like if anyone needs our art, if the world needs our art or not, we do, right? We need to create it, if nothing else for ourselves. So yeah, that's our vision. That's our hope for this. And we're excited about it. If you're excited about it too, if it sounds like something you want to do, um, you know, the coupon code is good for a few more weeks. So, yeah. And if you have any questions, you know, you can reach out. You probably follow either myself or Angie on Instagram or Facebook or something like that. So, any other questions before we go? I'm gonna honor our time because we're coming up at the end of the hour here. But any other thoughts or questions before we wrap it up? Cool. All right. Well, again, thank you all so much for being here. Thank you, Amber. Thank you, Angie. Thank you, everyone, just for sharing your thoughts. Yeah, we'd love to see you in the course. So it starts January the 8th. It'll run for 8 weeks. So the final one will be February 26th. So we don't want to make it too long. I've done courses before that went on for like months. So we thought, you know, let's just keep it short and sweet. And if we do it for 8 weeks and it's so great and so much fun and no one wants to stop, then we can do another one. But at least let's do it for 2 months and see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. We value everybody's time. We know that sometimes it's hard to commit to a long-term thing. And so let it be said, whether you join the course or not, I hope that your creativity is abundant and that it fills you up and hopefully it, helps heal you and helps heal others. So let that be said. And if you do want to join, invite a friend. It's kind of more fun if you have somebody with you that you know that you can kind of track this journey together. So it was wonderful to meet you all.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you all so much. Thank you for being here. Take care.
Hi, my friend Danielle. Hi, Will.
Yeah, bye, Will. Bye,
Good to
Debbie.
see you guys.
Yeah, good to see you too.
Take care.
All right. Hi, John. Amber, Amanda. All of you. Thank you so much.